Hey guys, it's Cam from Craftandtailored, and in this episode of What Is On My Wrist, we are talking about an Omega Seamaster Chronograph from 1967. The reference is 105.005. What's cool about this watch is it leverages the legendary, infamous, sometimes overly, uberly expensive caliber 321. Matter of fact, Omega just re-released the Cal 321 in their latest version of the Omega Speedmaster. So pretty legendary movement, a lot of history behind the movement, and often associated with being something that's a little bit more expensive, the 321, especially in the world of Speedmasters. If you have a Speedmaster with a 321 versus a caliber 861, the 321s fetch a little bit more of a premium, but the entry point to a 321 movement doesn't always have to be expensive. And so that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of an under the radar Omega chronograph that uses the 321 movement, but is also something that is very functional and very cool, and something that is definitely worthy of some wrist time. So this 105.005 Seamaster Chronograph is really, really cool. It's probably one of the more, sought after Omega Seamaster chronographs out of the era. The case size is 36, but it probably wears more like a 38 or a 40 because of the pushers and the crown. Obviously it's a 3-register chronograph, and it's weird that it's a Seamaster. Obviously Seamasters today are more associated with the dive watch range or like a Planet Ocean or like whatever. But back in the day, I think the Seamaster was, again, kind of something that I guess was more maybe associated with yachting, even though this isn't a regatta timer. It's just kind of interesting that they chose to use the Seamaster name for a chronograph, even though it's not really a waterproof chronograph. So in any case, kind of interesting from a branding perspective. But what is even more cooler about this era is that you have some details that you would find like in a Cal 321 Speedmaster in kind of a different form factor while leveraging the 321 movement, which is really, really cool. What's interesting about the 321 movement is it was only in production for about 11 years. And what's also interesting, even though Omega just recently brought the caliber 321 back into their watches, is they were cost prohibitive. So that's why Omega moved away from the 321 and then ended up with the Lemania based 861 movements. So there's a couple different dial variants for the reference. I actually like this dial format the most. It's what we would just call like a silver dial with the sunken subdials. The tachymeter is on the inside of the bezel, and it's actually printed on the stepped part of the dial. Really, really handsome watch. I think it's a watch that can kind of blend seamlessly from being something that's really sporty to something that you could even wear in a little bit more of a formal setting. What's also really cool is that most commonly these watches were sold in what we would refer to as an Omega Beads of Rice bracelet. So the nickname comes from kind of this center mesh that looks like beads of rice, but it's a very comfortable bracelet to wear. Another thing to note is that on the dial itself, the Omega logo is applied to the dial instead of printed on the dial, and it's also what we would call an Omega flat foot logo. So something that you would see in like the Omega Speedmaster 321's flat foot logo that's applied to the dial. Kind of just a really nice example of a sport watch, and it being that it's a chronograph, also meaning something that kind of could blend into being something that's a little bit more on the formal side. The case design is something that's really, really nice. I like the case design. I think I would kind of place this into the category in terms of fit, form, function, kind of feel into maybe some of the Rolex pre-Daytonas, as well as maybe even some of like the Heuer Carreras, those types of watches, which are a little bit smaller, not as overly built, say, as like a Speedmaster, but something that definitely is rugged enough to be worn while driving a car or being kind of out in the world. And definitely something that looks just as good on a strap as it does on the bracelet. In any case, really, really like this watch. The other thing that's kind of cool about this is this watch, obviously condition depending, can be found anywhere between like $3,400 to just shy of $5,000, depending on the dial variant, the year of production, as well as the overall condition of the watch. So this one's in pretty good condition. I really like the way that this watch wears. There's a little bit of degradation on the outside of the track on the tachymeter, but overall the watch is just a really, really nice example. Pleasing, kind of just monochromatic patina, and the dial, kicks out a lot of light. I really like this watch on the Beads of Rice bracelet too. What's also cool is the clasp has the earlier flat foot Omega logo, as we were, kind of talking about. So the watch wears really, really nicely, and I think it's a nice watch for being a 321 that's under like $9 grand, right? If you're looking at an Omega Speedmaster Pre-Moon Cal 321, the entry point is gonna be $9,000 US plus for an example that you're gonna wanna wear on wrist. I really like these little chronographs. I think this watch wears really nice, and it's nice. I really like having a manually wound 321 in a watch that is not a Speedmaster. It provides me with a little bit of a different variant. So in any case, that's the reason why it's on my wrist. That's why we're talking about it. This one is available currently on our website. I will, of course, provide a link in the description below so that you can check it out. But keep your eyes peeled for these guys. I think they're something that is still kind of flying a little bit under the radar, and something that you should probably be paying attention to. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, whatever you gotta do. And then also be sure to check us out on Instagram, because we're posting a lot of daily content there. We're using it as more of a mini blogging platform to tell you guys about what we have new and upcoming, and using it as a way to talk about the things that we love so much, which is vintage watches. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one. See you there.